Welcome back to episode 132 of the Chaos Ball Podcast, and welcome back, pain and suffering caused by our favorite baseball team, the Seattle Mariners. They're 4-9. They look terrible. Cancel the season. Sell, liquidate your 401k. The banks are out of money. We're screwed. Panic. The fog is coming. I think this team is probably fine. I don't know what I'm going to title this episode yet. There's so many ways I can go. But the Mariners have returned to Mariners' first principles. The offense looks absolutely terrible. And the pitching's been great. But otherwise, the vibes are awful right now to open the season. They're not out of this. It's the annual, it's April episode of the podcast for this team in particular. Because it feels like they start this way every single year. They started pretty poorly last year, and last year turned out just fine. But before I really get into the team right now in this episode, I will be talking about the Mariners start, obviously, but I will be talking about Colt Emerson, too. He's breaded up now down in AAA, which is really cool. But that'll come later in this episode. I'll be talking about the contract, what it means a little bit for the team. I'm sure you've heard from other people the details of the contract, but from like a macro level on how this team is structured moving forward, I feel like I need to talk about a little bit. Be talking a little Logan Gilbert and what he's done to open this season with his pitch arsenal, but mainly just talking about my thoughts on the team so far. But I'm recording now at the low point of their early season. They just lost 5 in a row. Lost 5 of 6 at the Angels and Rangers. Swept by the Rangers. Scored 3 runs that entire series. They have lost, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 one-run games. And they look like a team that should be losing these one-run games. It's been terrible offense combined with good pitching, but I feel like at least one real preventable defensive error every single game, and then it feels like every other game there is a very preventable base running error that is preventing this team from even making their own luck. Because one-run games in baseball, we all know this. There's plenty of luck involved. But, again, you got to make your own luck. You got to play good ball. And sometimes you'll still lose those games. Sometimes Joe Adele will rob 3 home runs in one game and you'll lose by 1 run. And that's just how baseball goes sometimes. But the rest of these one-run games, it's just these mistakes. The defense has been the opposite of crisp. It's been very soft and malleable and mealy out there and just terrible to watch. It's just been an awful watch. I do think I'm still of the mind that they're fine. Starting 4-9 historically isn't good. Teams generally don't make the postseason after starting 4-9. However, this has happened, I think, twice in the past 4 years a team has done that because more teams make the playoffs now. So really comparing a 4-9 team with 3 wild cards available to, 15 plus years ago is not doing a service to how it's likelier to make the postseason across the board now. So I think they're going to be okay. I'm not pressing the panic button yet because on paper, still this team, the offense should be fine long term. We're seeing the scheduled Julio April blues. He hates April and March. He hates these months, despises them. Spring is his least favorite season. He needs it to be a little bit warmer outside. Cal has been shockingly bad. Like, really, really terrible. He has cold stretches. I mean, he's a thumper up there who strikes out a decent amount. Even last year, he started off a little slow, and even then, there's still some cold streaks in there. He just hit a home run finally, but he is just looking terrible across the board, whiffing at everything. The particularly concerning one is the whiff on pitches right down the middle. That's real bad. Thankfully, that was one of the pitches he got from DeGrom in that 12-pitch at-bat that he deposited into the right field seats a couple days ago, but still, on the whole, looks terrible. Josh Naylor can't hit anything. Who else has been bad? Pretty much everyone. Randy's been solid. Randy's been getting on base. Power's not quite there, but he's been getting on base. Cole Young's been outstanding. Oh, Brendan Donovan has been good. Yeah, there's been some good, but largely bad. They've been god-awful in utilizing the ABS challenge system, like incredibly bad. You got to wonder what the strategy is there. Like, I don't know. They don't have like a clear strategy for hitters. I feel like Dan and the squad or in the coaching staff are giving the players just some leeway at the plate for themselves. There hasn't been like a rhyme or reason to the challenges. Like, and I mean that we haven't seen them avoid challenging before like the 6th inning. Like, there's not like an effort to really save them, it seems like. And then on the pitching side, it does seem like Cal is doing most of the challenging, although George Kirby did win one. One of the few pitchers to win a challenge this season. So I think there's definitely that aspect on the pitching side where Cal is going to be doing most of the challenging. He hasn't been very good at it. I feel like he'll get better as the season goes on. Mitch Garver's been good at it, but on the whole, it's both been lack of challenging the pitchers they should challenge, and then when they do challenge, I feel like they haven't won very much. There's numbers for this. I'm not looking at the numbers. Purely anecdotal from watching all of these games. Terrible. But it can go better than this. It's going to go better than this. His offense isn't going to be this bad all season. I maybe that's not a very hot take, but it can't be. And they don't have to play in Anaheim every week. And it feels like baseball in Anaheim is a terrible thing. It is an absolutely abhorrent situation for everyone involved, really. Thankfully, I didn't go to those games because, God, that was about the level of baseball I see every time I go to an Angels-Mariners game down here. The Joe Adele game on Saturday, that was the first Mariners game of the year I didn't watch any second of because I was out touching grass. I was out hanging out with people and elsewhere away from my home and enjoying myself. And what pops up on my phone? I know the Mariners are playing. I'm not looking at my phone, checking the score. But I get a notification. Joe Adele has robbed 2 home runs. I was like, oh, that's cool. Okay. Well, there's plenty of game left. And then by the time the game ends, I get the 3rd notification that he robbed another home run. And my night was ruined. No, it wasn't ruined. Really put a damper on my headspace for a second, and then I just put my phone away and didn't really look into it much more that night, thank God. Honestly, glad that was the game I wasn't watching. That was the one game I fully didn't watch this year. I feel like that was a good decision on my part. Could have been watching on my phone. Thank God I didn't. Next day I watched the game back, and it was just par for the course with both baseball in Anaheim, and that officially kicked off this 5-game skid after they hadn't been playing great already, but they won the opener at Angel Stadium in a great game. They held the Angels to just 1 hit in their opener, and it's just been downhill since then. But Joe Adele, it's just improbable. This is what I was talking about a few minutes ago with, there's plenty of luck involved in these 1-run games. This is an example of this, where a guy robs 3 home runs in a game you lose 1-0. That, maybe you should have scored more runs, hit the ball a little bit farther, string some hits together with runners in scoring position instead of hitting the ball over the fence. But usually, if you hit 3 balls that are going over the fence even a little bit, one of them, at least, is bound to make it over the fence. And so I'm not saying it's not their fault they didn't win. It's just this was some divine intervention that the Mariners were not winning that game, and God is not on their side. The baseball, I mean, has God ever been on the Mariners' side? Let's be real here. This is not coming as a surprise. I'm not hating on Joe Adell. I do hate the Angels. I don't hate Joe Adell. Personally, I do enjoy watching him hit dingers when it's not against my favorite team because he can hit the ball really hard. Actually, first of all, it was also just incredibly improbable because he was an awful defender last year, but that is beside the point. He already robbed 3 home runs. You don't get less, robberies for being a bad defender by outs above average. The first 2 that he grabbed were really aesthetically so lame to me because of Angel Stadium. They were also just like a lot of big league right fielders do make that play. Again, he still has to make it twice. It's crazy. He even had the opportunity to make it twice. He has to time the jump right. That's not my point. It just wasn't like having to climb the entire wall to get it. The aesthetic part is because that big ass wall they moved it recently, right? A few years ago, the yellow line down to the lower, more standard size wall for that to be a home run. It's so stupid that that's a home run. If you hit it off of the wall, above the yellow line, but still off the wall, it's a home run. So aesthetically, it's not like he was reaching over the wall to like nothingness behind it like you would in center field or something, or at most ballparks you could reach over the wall and there's either seats or like a big hole behind the wall. This was just more wall, so it just looks kind of stupid because of what the Angels did with that part of the ballpark, which I think is still ridiculous that they did that. The last one was sick. I mean, the last one was like, it sparked some discourse of, should that even be an out at all? I mean, it is. Like, by the rules, that is an out. But, like, should it be? I mean, if you were... Yeah, like, probably. I don't know. You can't do this like the NFL, where it's like you have to have 1 foot touching the dirt or 2 feet in fair territory, or not even fair territory, 2 feet on the field with the ball before you can launch yourself into the seats to catch it, like whatever. That I feel like that'd be stupid. That was a pretty awesome catch, cemented by the photo that came out afterwards of him just standing out there, which was sick. I will say, this spawned an idea in my mind that in a scenario, it would have to be such a specific scenario for this to happen. And this could be at like Fenway or Angel Stadium, like these places that have these smaller walls next to the foul poles where the ball is hit so high. So it'd have to be like Shohei Ohtani's up, Aaron Judge is up or something, Kyle Schwarber, like Cal, someone who's a known home run hitter is up at the plate, who pulls the ball a lot down either line where these small fences are available, and it's hit so high and the outfielder's already playing back that he has the time to jump the wall and like walk up the stairs towards the concourse like a few rows to catch the ball. So he's not even robbing the home run necessarily. He just fully jumps and is like a fan at that point catching a home run ball. That would still technically be an out. And now I really want to see that happen. Again, it would have to be a very specific scenario. There'd have to be enough time for him to be able to do this. And I don't know if it's physically possible. That or Shohei Ohtani's up to bat and it's a tie ball game, and a pitcher who gives up home runs a lot is in the game, and you just say, hey, Joe, you are going to go stand on the warning track out there. We're going to shift our outfield completely this way. We just can't have him hitting a home run here. We can have him doing anything else. And if he hits it towards you, you jump that wall. and you track the ball in the seats as best you can and get under it. We may look back on that game as the moment the Mariners missed the playoffs. That is a crazy thing to say, but they lost that game. 4 straight L's since then. I'm just saying that was their second stupid loss of the year. There's 3 now because the next Angels game was also a really stupid loss. None of these Rangers games, I'm tracking the stupid losses, by the way. None of these Rangers games were stupid. It was just pure incompetence. Like, there wasn't anything objectively dumb that happened in these games, like Joe Adell robbing 3 home runs or the Mariners being incredibly stupid and scoring 7 runs and losing. It was just purely bad ball. The only other thing on the Angels series, because I don't even really want to talk about the Cleveland series or the Yankees, because those were kind of just baseball games that happened, you know. The Angels was where most of the discourse has come from, and the despair and pain. Is the Mike Trout hitting situation, getting hit by pitch. It's incredibly stupid. Really, really, makes me feel stupid for being on the internet type of discourse is how I'm feeling about this. Mike Trout has said for the second time now, I think, about a Mariners pitcher, which the first time he said it was about George Kirby, which is the funniest thing ever. But that if you can't control it, don't pitch inside. And it's like, okay, Mike, get real for a second. You might get hit by a pitch in the sport where you're getting a ball thrown at you constantly, and your biggest weakness is inside pitches. Yeah, you might get hit by more pitches than usual. A pitcher, I'm imagining in my mind, a pitcher is up there on the mound, or the catcher who's calling the game is like, I know this guy doesn't have good control. He's not like a completely wild pitcher, but since it's Mike Trout, I think I'm not going to call any fastballs in, despite that being his worst pitch to hit against. We're just going to try to attack him in a different way over the plate here. Like, it's completely stupid to say that. And he's not even being targeted getting hit. That's also the crazy, stupid thing. Like, Casey Legumina didn't mean to hit him with a fastball. He wasn't throwing at his dome. Brian Wu also, notably, throws a lot of high fastballs. And I don't think anyone is out to just hit Mike Trout. He's the most inoffensive man in the sport. Like, the Mariners and Angels hate each other, but it's not like Mike Trout has done anything crazy in the past to this team recently. Obviously, he rakes against them historically, but it's like, come on. Like, get real. You get hit sometimes. They're not targeting Mike Trout. It's so incredibly stupid. And that was it from the Angels series. Now, I'm going to continue this all year, but I routinely I take notes throughout the week and just write little things here and there down in my notes app. Sometimes to make an agenda for my podcasts. Sometimes I just write things down and forget that I wrote them down in the heat of the moment, and I come back to them and I'm like, yeah, they're just little tidbits of the week or weeks for me. And I'm going to read a couple here and maybe expand on them and riff a bit on my own ideas. Now, the first one I got out of the way. It says Joe Adell. Next one. Dan Wilson is still not great at the whole managing a game thing. Yeah, I still don't think he's very good at this. It's shown itself these 2 weeks into the season that, yeah, I still don't think he's really the best at managing a bullpen, managing a lineup full of platoon hitters who may or may not be good at their platoon role. Regardless, the whole situation the other night where he burned, who did he burn? Refsnyder. He was going to pinch hit Refsnyder, and then they put in a righty, and so he burned him to put in JP, and then somehow Rivas was still playing in the field after all of that. Yeah, I just don't think he's amazing at this still. And again, he's still really young. I fully addressed this last year. I don't really think the Mariners can be all that mad at Dan for being inexperienced as a manager for a team with high expectations like the Mariners, because they hired him and knew this. And I don't want to relitigate hiring him and how poor of a decision I think that was. Next note, it's not Leo Rivas' fault that he's playing every day. I tweeted this out. Shockingly, people were pretty in agreement with me, despite the vitriol thrown at Leo Rivas. And maybe that's because I don't invite a lot of that on my Twitter account, because I'm pretty rational on there and generally ignore people who are rude. But Leo Rivas, he shouldn't be playing every day. He's been pretty dreadful, but he has been playing every day. I think he's perfect in a little amount. I think his magic comes from his... he has good abilities as a utility man off the bench, and we'll leave it at that because that's where his magic lives. He's not a player that should be in the starting lineup every day. And it's looking like now he's not going to be, with JP pretty much back and Donovan back from his little injury that he had. So we're still pro Leo Rivas at this point in time. We've just been exposed to him too much. And too much of any good thing is bad. The dose makes the poison. All right? And the perfect amount of poison is Leo Rivas off the bench a couple times a week. Next note. Anaheim is a stupid place for baseball. End of note. Next one. The Nintendo logo on the Steelheads jersey is stupid. Yes, I remember this one because they debuted the Steelheads on Sunday, which were sick. I'm a Sunday cream enjoyer. Call me a Sunday creamer. Just going to move on from that. I really like those jerseys. I own one, and I do enjoy them. But I've talked about when they announced this, I appreciate them giving us a break from those in lieu of the Steelheads because I think they look incredible on the field. They're good in promos and like off the field and people wearing them. Like I would totally get one. I would totally get one of the hats. On the field, they look even better. They genuinely look incredible on the field. And maybe it's just because the City Connect era has given us a lot of fun, I will admit, flair, like loud jerseys, baseball jerseys, which is a departure from the norm of the sport for 150 years. And a lot of those were pretty shitty. Some of those were great. And now it feels like the City Connects, every team is just mailing them in and making just like a really colorful jersey to wear. I'm not like the most fond of even the Mariners one, but it feels like we're reaching a point in the second round of City Connects where everyone is kind of fatigued from them. And I think it'll be a fun thing to do every so often in baseball. I don't think we need to do it where a team gets into one every 3 years. I like a Sunday alternate. And then back to my original point for the Steelheads jerseys, I like because they're so simplistic. There's just something beautiful about them. Except for that fuck-ass Nintendo logo on the sleeve. It is such an eyesore on these jerseys, and I demand that they take it off. Because just on its face, a black and white, well, kind of black and cream-ish jersey, with a bright red logo on it, when that's not the team's primary color even, is incredibly stupid. But then the point of these, obviously, is these are Negro League jerseys from an interesting history of Seattle black baseball. And going back to a time where jerseys look simplistic, like I just said, and doing a jersey that is an homage to an older baseball team and throwing a Nintendo logo on it is just crazy work. It's like whatever the hell the Kansas City Royals jersey patch is. I don't have all of these known off the top of my head. If they did like a Kansas City Monarchs situation like the Mariners are doing, because the Monarchs, they're one of, if not the most famous Negro League team ever. If they did this and had their same jersey patch on it, which I'm sure that they would, honestly, I would be saying the same thing. It's just against the spirit of a throwback jersey like this. But I love the Steelheads jerseys. Big fan of them wearing these, and they look incredible. And my final note here before I get to talking a little bit about what's actually going well and some other interesting stuff. Cole Young should regrow his mustache, I think. I really think he looked good with one. I am also a white man with a mustache. Just feel like he looks good with one. Maybe, maybe he regrows it and he stops this breakout. So maybe don't listen to me, Cole. But that is it for my notes of the week. And now let's briefly talk about what is interesting and get to the good later. It's kind of veering on good. Logan Gilbert and his pitch mix to open the season is looking different. And I think we all hopefully understand the rationale behind it. So he's still throwing his four-seamer, throwing it a little bit less. He's just throwing 2 more pitches this year. So he's brought the cutter back into the fold. He unveiled this in 2024 and pretty much as the year went on got rid of it completely last year, and now it's back in the arsenal. He has thrown it with very small sample 15% of the time this year. It's clear what he's trying to do. He's thrown it 3 times against right-handed batters, 40 times against left-handed batters. This one, I am fully in support of this and in support of the premise behind this idea, because we talked about him being really inefficient in one of my preview episodes, the last one before the season. I think that was literally the last episode. Good job, me, for having that off the top of my dome. But we know his splitter is a great whiff pitch. His slider can be a good whiff pitch when he's locating it, which is real asterisks on that. His fastball is very serviceable. We know on a rate basis he was incredible at getting swing and miss last year. Just wasn't able to work deep into games because he was both hurt and coming back from that injury, and also because he just takes a ton of pitches to put guys away. Like, he gets a strikeout, but it feels like he's throwing junk up there, and the strikeout might come in a full count, and that happens all too often, and he just can't work deep into games and be efficient about his outs. The cutter makes so much sense. It gives him another thing to attack lefties with, which the split is already good for that, for really swinging and missing. Cutter is kind of perfect for that. Having an out pitch, and he needs an out pitch. He needs to be getting just more soft contact, more ground balls, more early outs rather than deep count strikeouts. And the cutter can do that for you. It's not only a great pitch to throw against lefties, because if you can locate it, it goes right kind of in their dead zone, right inside middle of the plate. And they can whiff at it, or they can swing at it thinking it's a fastball, and that late cut action that dips slightly makes it so they get on top of it, and it's a weak grounder or a ground ball. I think this hasn't exactly come to fruition yet, but he's throwing it enough that this seems like a key piece in his arsenal this year. I'm intrigued to see how it progresses throughout the season. The other change this year is he's throwing a changeup. He hasn't officially thrown a changeup since 2022, and he's throwing it with his splitter too. He's throwing his splitter more, but now he has 2 off-speed pitches. The splitter is incredible. No spin, a lot more just vertical drop on this. The changeup is more spin and more horizontal movement. This is something that pitchers in Japan have been doing for a little while now, is throwing 2 off speed. And it's odd to see in the U.S. because usually a lot of guys recently have more than one breaking ball. Like, they have a slider, they have a sweeper, they have a curveball, sometimes all 3. Sometimes they have 4 versions of the sweeper that they throw. And there's been more like you have a changeup, or you have a splitter, or you have like a forkball or something. You don't generally have 2 off-speed pitches that you throw off of each other. But Logan is doing it. He's not the only pitcher to do it. And again, Japan has been doing it for a while. This seems like maybe this is a new meta for American pitchers. It's maybe a new trend, is throwing multiple off-speed pitches like changeup, splitter. I think this can work. It gives hitters a different look. Changeup, once again, can function similarly to the cutter, where it's another good thing to throw to lefties because it goes away from them, and another good thing to act as an out pitch where he can get ground balls from a changeup. He might not get a lot of whiffs on this pitch, but it's another avenue for him to get weak contact, to get early outs. So we're going to be keeping an eye on this as the season goes on, because that's clearly, that was obviously the thing he needed to do, was just work deeper into games, and he's trying to do that. There's clearly a strategy behind it with him, the coaches, Cal. I'm all here for it, because everything needs to revolve around the splitter being disgusting and him getting a little bit more ground ball outs, weak contact outs. So, intrigued to see where that one goes. All right, let's move on. Let's move on to the good. The things going according to plan in 2026 for the Seattle Mariners this year. The pitching staff as a whole is going according to plan. They've been unreal to start the year. This is exactly what we wanted to see from these guys after a real topsy-turvy year last year. A big reason behind this is Emerson Hancock. Now, because he was the we'll just see what we get from him. I was on record saying I'm not buying into him again for a third straight season. If he's good, he's good. If he's not, I'm not going to be broken up about it. Early returns, he looks solid, and I'm ready to almost say I am real confident in him being the main sixth guy this season. A lot of people might already be saying that. I still would like to see a little bit more, because I'm skeptical because of what we've seen from him past couple of years. But it's not like he's out there doing the same things and succeeding that way. He's doing things differently. He's dropped his arm angle even more this year to 13 degrees, which is way lower than it had been in the past. What was he at last year? 18. A full 5-degree difference. That's a huge drop. He is not necessarily throwing his pitches harder this year. That was one of the things we were looking for after he added velocity in the bullpen. And I'm sure he could again in the pen. But as a starter, he's not adding a ton of velocity. He's just kind of flipped his usage on its head with his four-seam and his sinker. He's throwing the four-seam a lot this year. And that is a pitch that's looked pretty terrible recently. But the thing about it now is it's coming in from a lower arm slot, and he's locating it a lot better at the top of the zone. So it's just looking really different than it has in the past, and particularly to lefties. He's been throwing it a lot away to lefties, and that has been interesting, with the sinker being something that he's attacking right-handed hitters on the inside part of the zone on. So he's now more of a four-seam guy to enter this year than a sinker guy. And the sweeper actually looks good. The sweeper in these two starts that he's had has actually looked, I don't even want to say good, it's looked great in the two starts that he's had. The movement he's getting on it is great. I think the drop in arm angle is where a lot of this is probably coming from, because he's just getting more sweep. And if that's going to keep up, and he can keep locating the fastball where he is, I still would love for him to throw it a little bit harder. It's still not a great velocity at 94, which is a crazy thing to say. But what he's done is gotten a lot of weak contact. He's staying in the zone, a lot more whiff than he ever has. A lot of that to do with this new sweeper, this new look sweeper. I think he has a clear attack plan for lefties and righties. I think it's all coming down to the lower arm slot and where that fastball is coming out, because now he's kind of not Brian Wooing it exactly. He's not throwing as many fastballs as Woo does, but it's the same type of idea where you want to differentiate yourself as much as possible from everyone else. And why is Brian Woo so good? Not only can he throw the fastball really well, and he just gets a lot of movement on it with his great athletic delivery, but it's coming in from such a low angle that there's just less available bat plane to hit the baseball as it's coming in to the zone. And I feel like that's what Emerson Hancock is doing. The arm slot is lower. The fastball is coming in flatter and riding through the zone better. And as long as he can keep locating it at the top of the zone and it doesn't creep down to touch too much of the plate, he's going to profit. And I can't believe I'm saying that. And he has a cutter, too. Now, I need to see more of the cutter, but the fact that he has a sweeper now, a main breaking pitch, and then a little cheeky little cutter sinker 3 fastball guy was a good sweeper. There's a pitcher in here, man. There's a good pitcher in here. Now, it's a good problem to have if he keeps this up and Bryce Miller comes back. I don't know what they're going to do, honestly. Maybe they run a 6-man rotation for a little while. But there might be a legitimate pitcher in Emerson Hancock. I don't think he's going to sport a .71 ERA all season, but if he can even be league average and be their main depth starter, I am so freaking here for it. That is what has been going well. The other thing that's going well besides, like I said, Randy's been good. Brendan Donovan's been good. There's been other fine parts of the offense in a largely desolate lineup. Cole Young looks incredible, and I don't even want to go too in-depth on his numbers because it's almost pointless right now. But he just looks great. He just looks like a professional second baseman. The swing is so pretty. It's so smooth. Like when he connects with a baseball, it is just gorgeous. Like the home run he hit in Anaheim, I tweeted it out. It was just like butter. Like it was just beautiful. Like absolutely beautiful. It looks so like easily replicable. Like it's a good swing to get a lot of pulled fly balls and run into a lot of homers where you think a guy like him can't. But he also just looks like he's able to get to pitches and fight pitches off, and he looks so confident in there. The breakout is happening. I had bought into it. A lot of other people in Mariners land had bought into it. It's still really early to say officially where he's at in the second base landscape of how good he is. But right now, again, if he continues looking like this, man, that's a boon for this team. And it's been a real lift for the offense having him be this good. And it's felt really good to watch as a fan. And then in the field, he's looked so much better. He's looked incredible in the field. He's had one more spring training with Perry Hill under his belt, and it looks it. He is just making really nice plays at what seems like every single day, and that's going to be huge to have. They're going to continue to roll out JP at short. Having him up the middle as a plus second baseman, and it takes a little while for the fielding metrics to level out, but if he ends up grading out as a plus second baseman, that would be an absolute boon for this team to have up the middle. If JP, again, is going to be the shortstop all year, which I'm not going to talk about yet. So, what else to get to? Really, it's just Colt Emerson. Yeah, I could look ahead to the weekend. They play an Astros team that looks pretty awful. And then they go to the Padres, play the Rangers at home again. I don't want to look too deep out into the rest of April. We'll just have to watch and hopefully not want to claw our eyes out. But let's talk about Colt Emerson. Colt Emerson, he signed a deal before he even made the big leagues. I, too, haven't made the big leagues. I would like even 1% of the money that he was just guaranteed by the Mariners would be nice, but I'll keep waiting for my turn. But Colt Emerson, clearly, obviously, the Mariners really, really like Colt. This is evidence of that. This feels like a lot of these have happened recently, but I feel like teams have been offering these for a while. They've happened before. The biggest one was a few years ago was Cheerio, and then now Emerson, and then Connor Griffin just broke this, but obviously Mariners fans will remember the Evan White deal, which was way smaller potatoes than this, and that didn't work out, but very different prospects. Colt his debut is imminent. They kept him in AAA, probably rightfully so, to start the year. Speculation about what they were doing. I don't think anyone really thought it was service time manipulation. I mean, he didn't light spring on fire or anything. But then they signed him to this deal for 8 years, $95 million guaranteed, club option for one season after that, but very, I'll say modest for a pre-debut deal. This is huge. This is massive. You can see why a guy might take this deal. But from the Mariners' perspective, it's a no-brainer. It just, with how things are structured these days, you got to get the deal done soon or you miss the boat. Like Julio, they got it done. I think that was in August of 2022. He showed them enough. Jared Kelenic, they offered him a similar deal to this before he debuted, and he turned it down, which is brutal for him looking at where he's ended up. But that's how this can go. Now, I don't want to utter Kelnic's name in the same breath as Emerson, but different players. I think there's holes in Jared Kelnic's swing that I think maybe we're better at figuring out now. With Colt, he feels, knock on wood, more bankable because a lot of it's hit tool reliant, but also he's a shortstop. He's a shortstop. His defense improved so much this year. We've talked about that. That's why he really skyrocketed up prospect rankings, and he's only 20 years old. He's obviously, I said he's in AAA. He'll be here soon, but this averages out to $12 million a year. It buys out 2 free agency years, and then the club option buys out 1 more if they so choose. But he gets an $8 million signing bonus this year, plus his small little salary. Then it scales up from there. But basically, the most important part, like, they're going to be overpaying him for the next 3 years because he would have just been making league minimum. And then in arbitration through his first 2 years of free agency, he's making an average of $16 million a year. It goes 13, 15, 16, 17, and 19. The club option is for 25 and 2034, but this runs through 2033 guaranteed. $16 million a year from arbitration through the first 2 years of free agency. If Colt is even pans out close, like 80th percentile of maybe what they think he can be, he will be underpaid for those years. If he's even half of what the Mariners think he's going to be, this will still be a worthwhile deal. I think they clearly think he's good enough to stick at shortstop for a while, and even if you're a good shortstop, even just league average to good to maybe great a couple years, and the bat is league average, even if that was the case, this would still probably be a deal that is worth doing because that is incredibly valuable. Just if you're looking at it from a very boringly WAR per dollar standpoint, this is a no-brainer. They obviously think he can be better than that. They think the hit tool that he was drafted for is still legit. He's put on more muscle, can get to more power, but I think they probably view his floor as pretty damn high considering what he's done the past year plus to improve his defense at shortstop, and just be able to get on base and hit enough at the big leagues to be a worthwhile player. And there's more room for him to put on more muscle and tweak his swing and be more of a power guy, even if he isn't immediately. And, what's interesting is thinking about it, even if he is exactly J.P. Crawford, like let's just say he puts up identical numbers to J.P. Crawford's time in Seattle, which he's been with the team, this is his 8th year, right? So it almost lines up perfectly. If he puts up exact same WAR, let's call it, as JP, this will be a worthwhile deal. Like, it is so valuable to have a shortstop, even like JP, who's not great defensively anymore, but is good offensively, who puts up, 3 to 4 WAR average every year. So thinking about it that way, this contract likely to be worth it. However, he's still a prospect. There's still an air of unknown with all prospects before they debut. Like, he could be Jared Kelenic. Again, knock on wood, nobody wants that. It's just an option. And in that case, for a team like the Mariners, in 2030, paying $15 million to nothing is no bueno. But I think they're pretty confident and their ability and his ability to make this deal worthwhile for them. It's also really good for everyone involved, for fans, for him, for the team. We know that he's here for at least 2 more years after arbitration, and there's not going to be kind of what we're experiencing right now with the team, with like Logan Gilbert and George Kirby, and then Brian Wu and Bryce Miller soon, where they didn't extend them early, and they hit arbitration, and now we kind of have to do a dance. But if Colt Emerson also if he's hitting arbitration, and he is an above-average hitter with a good glove at shortstop, he would make, if he was that after his arbitration ended, just on a normal ARB timeline with no extension involved, he's making 25, 30 on the open market easily after 2031. So that the average salary, if he's reaches his potential, is going to be much higher than, or it's going to be lower than he would get on the open market. And also, from his perspective, one, it's huge to sign this deal also now, because now he can just really focus on being the best player he possibly can be. I mean, not that he wasn't focused on that before, but there's the, I want to be called up, I want to start my clock now. Players want to start as soon as possible so they can hit ARB as soon as possible. And now it's good for him. He has this out of the way. It puts bigger expectations on him, sure, but he was already the number 1 prospect in the organization. There's already a lot of hype for him, and he had a lot of helium in the last year. Like, there was already a lot of pressure. So I, on its face, really like this deal. I trust what the Mariners think that they have here in Colt Emerson, and reading so much about him this offseason and why he shot up prospect boards. It's hard to not be excited about him. And also from his perspective, you're not going too far out here. Like, if he is a great shortstop for the next 8 seasons, even if the Mariners pick up his club option for $25 million, which would be close to his actual value if that was the case for his age 28 season, you're still hitting free agency at 29. With this deal, you could hit it at 28. So you're hitting it pre-30 years old. So if he is a superstar and just plays this deal out and hits free agency at 29, he's still making, in 2035 is a completely fake year in my mind. That it's hard to even fathom that right now. But in the open market in 2035, even not knowing who or what the financial landscape is in baseball and the salary structure, he's making 30 plus, easily as a shortstop. So love this for everyone involved. Really, really do. And for this season, like I said, I think it alleviates pressure of trying to rush to call him up. However, if with the team scuffling, if he's lighting the world on fire for the Rainiers, there will be plenty of people, maybe even including myself, that despite the somewhat awkward team fit, they should just call him up. They don't have to worry about service time stuff anymore and all that. I don't think he's eligible anymore for the prospect promotion incentive. I think they would have had to call him up this week. Despite him signing the extension, I think they still could have called him up this week and been eligible, but they're not eligible for that anymore, so they clearly don't care about that for this year. But for this season, we know he's going to be the shortstop next season and for the next 8 years, hopefully, for the next, however many. This season, it still is it's a weird fit to just call him up, because you'd want him playing every day. You can't just stick him in the Leo Rivas utility spot. Dipoto has said he will ideally play both third base and shortstop. Third base would be the most likely position for him this year at the major league level. Things would have to happen, though. I mean, it would, for him to be playing third base, Cole Young would have to not be doing what he is right now, so Donovan plays more second. But right now, Cole Young is the everyday second baseman. I think Luke Raley would have to completely tank. And he's had a good start to the year. He's had a solid start to this season, kind of exactly what we needed to see from him. I don't want to get into like the swing and miss numbers, but the power looks good. Luke Raley, I think would just have to completely tank so that they shift Donovan out to basically full-time right field as the lefty out there and play Colt every day at third. That is probably the most likely scenario here, or like Canzone falls off a cliff and they DH Raley and throw Donovan out there in right field. I think for Colt to be up playing third, I think Donovan has to be in right field, basically is what I'm saying, for however many reasons that could happen, barring like injuries happening. Like long-term injury to JP, he's coming up. Long-term injury to Donovan Young, he's coming up for sure. The other option is like JP's just terrible, and I feel like there's a slight chance this happens. I don't think it's a big chance, but it's a slight chance that JP's just terrible. His production at the plate tanks, and if he's not a like 110 to 115 WRC plus hitter, if he's like a 87 WRC plus hitter, and it's June, and Colt Emerson has a 1100 OPS for Tacoma, I think you have to have a conversation about just full-on DFAing and releasing JP and just throwing Colt to the wolves and having him be the starting shortstop. That's the least likely scenario here, but I feel like that is a thing that could happen. So we'll see. We'll see. It's more just this is exciting. I don't care right now how he fits on the current squad. If they're going to call him up, I'm sure they'd have a plan, but we'll see how this plays out. Point is, he's on the team the next 8 seasons at least. We love to see that. And another option, even before I got out of here, with the contract, if he's a superstar, and we're reaching year 6-ish of this deal, where he would be an impending free agent, but they have him locked up at least 2 more years, clearly on the table at that point is another extension. He would be like going into the first free agency year that they bought out, 2032, where he's 26 and he's a superstar. And they just say, fuck it. Like they just give him a 10-year extension for $300 million or something. They just say, yeah, we're just going to do it. You're a superstar shortstop. We are going to incorporate these 2 years into this extension, but then pay you like almost 30 a year average after that. Whatever the going rate is for a top 5, top 10 even, to be more conservative shortstop in the game at that point. I feel like that's on the table. Wow, will Jerry even be running the Mariners in 2032? I don't want to think about that, so I'm just going to get out of here. Thank you for listening to the first podcast of the actual 2026 season. We are hoping it gets better from here. It would be hard to get worse from this standpoint for how everyone's feeling right now, but I appreciate you listening this far. I'll see you next time, and of course, go Mariners.